Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of my videos. It has been a long time since my last video. Today is December 19th, yes, so it has been a while. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I am currently, I've been teaching, and it was a very busy semester, and I couldn't get to a lot of the writing that I like to do. It was a good semester. I learned a lot. I had an enjoyable. It was very good for me and career-wise and everything like that, so I'm not complaining, but I didn't get to do a lot of reading or writing, which is fine. I understand these things sometimes happen, and hopefully I'll be able to write over the next couple of weeks because it's the holidays. So since I haven't been writing, I literally haven't written much. I mean, I've written some things here and there, just little scraps or whatever. Like I'd start to draft and then I just put it away. I haven't done anything really for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, so I don't really have much to say in that respect. But I have been thinking about writing all throughout this, even though I haven't necessarily been doing much writing. And part of that reason is I've been reading this book. It's Edgewise, A Picture of Cookie Mueller. And I picked it up and I knew a little bit about Cookie, but I didn't know a huge amount. I actually probably knew her most from the photos that Nan Golden took of her. And so I didn't actually know that she was a writer. And yet, oddly enough, I didn't know that she was in all the John Waters movies, like the early ones. So that was very interesting. So in general, I didn't really know much about her. I just knew that a lot of people like this book, and sometimes, I think it's exciting to pick up a book that you know nothing about, or you don't have a lot of connection with, and pick it up and it suddenly takes you on a place that you weren't really expecting. And this has definitely been that. I'm not finished, but it's a really excellent book for many reasons. It's a nonfiction. It's like an oral history of Cookie Mueller. So it's not actually like written as like a nonfiction narrative where it's just the narrator just describing this person's life. It's actually just different people, and they're set off by their names. I don't know if you can see this here. It's hard to see. So you can see there's John Waters' piece. And so like John Waters will describe something about her life, and then it'll go on to another person, in this case Earl DeVries, and then so on and so forth. And that's how her life is told. It's told through the voices of the people who knew her, and not through this person who did not know her. But it's really excellently done. This Chloe Griffin did a really good job, and I'm enjoying it immensely. It's also kind of done in like a zine style, I guess, where there's a lot of like cutouts and photographs just put in, things like that. It's video stills, things like that. So very kind of punk, zine-ish, stuff like this. And it really adds to the reading experience. And I mean, the whole book is interesting. I mean, Cookie Mueller was an interesting person. She obviously a very creative person, obviously incredibly loved, like a lot of people in the downtown art scene knew her and really loved her, like thought she was a wonderful person. And I'm definitely going to read her stories after this. I've been incredibly inspired to read them. And so that, just the fact of her life and who she was as a creative person, is really interesting and exciting to me. But also, what I liked about it is just the actual, as I said, Chloe Griffin did a great job. The actual construction of the narrative as like an oral history, and what that does and how it makes it I don't know, it really changes the feel of the book and makes it more, you get very immersed in the feeling of the times that these people are describing. And they often don't just describe Cookie Mueller's life, they describe the life, the whole scene around Cookie. And so you get this whole sweeping feel of what it was like to be, for instance, a hippie in the late 60s, and then when she was in Baltimore in the 70s, and Provincetown, and then she moved to New York, in the downtown New York scene in the late 70s, early 80s, and and there's all these people that she knew that add a lot of, it's just amazing to see all these different people, like John Waters, obviously, and Richard Hell, and Gary Indiana, and Chris Kraus, all these people, Lynn Tillman, you're like, oh wow, she knew everyone pretty much. So that's really exciting as well. And so all of that, very inspiring, very interesting, just hearing about all these people who were very artistic and creative, but who didn't, they were dirt poor, she was dirt poor throughout her life. And who they just kind of did it. They just did it somehow, which is exciting. And it's also, as I'm reading this, I'm getting a better idea of a problem that I've had to deal with. And that is, I've been sending some stuff out even while I've been not writing. And I've been, rejected a few times. And in general, some of the things I've been hearing back, when I've rejected, is they say things like, oh, this was a great piece, unfortunately it's not right, or whatever. And, if you keep getting the same form of rejection, you start to wonder, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe this criticism is valid. Well, I'm sure it's valid. I'm not saying that these criticisms aren't valid, but maybe there's something more to it than just this piece, and maybe this is something that I need to think about and change. And, this is related to the fact that I'm teaching students writing skills, and one of the things that I often find that I need to really work on with them is their conception of audience. And, I think when a lot of people, when they're new writers, they don't really care about writing, or they don't really think about it a lot. They don't think about audience at all. So, for instance, if I'm getting a student to write a letter, they often don't think about in any way what the needs of the reader are. So when they're asking for things, or they're saying something, they're often doing it in an incredibly kind of self-absorbed way. Not because they're self-absorbed people, but they just don't even realize what they should be doing when they're talking to another person, particularly in a letter. I find that I'm constantly going, well, think about what your audience wants. What does your audience want? How can you give that to them? And, in a professional sense, I think I have this down very well. I often can think of what my audience wants, and then I can give it to them. But in my creative side, I struggle with this too, in knowing who my audience is and how I want to appeal to them. And I think that one of the interesting things about this book for me is that it very clearly knows who its audience is. And that isn't just in the subject matter or whatever, it's in the way it's told. And even in some ways, like I said, this style of writing, the font on the page, everything clearly knows who the audience is. And that's why it's so effective, you can decide to enter this world or not enter this world because you clearly know, okay, this is what the reader is expecting of me, and I can trust them and move on. And I think that is something that I struggle with a lot. And I think it's because, and I was thinking about in particular how, like, just even the font here really gives me an idea of who the audience is. And I think that when I'm often writing things, I think I have kind of a generic idea of who my audience is. And so it's like when I'm thinking about what I'm writing, I actually can't picture it on a page. And like in a book or something like that. Or if I imagine it in a book, I imagine it in kind of a indistinct book. And I think that's a clear sign that I'm not really clear on who my audience is. And I mean, this is difficult because your audience for a creative thing, in a very real sense, when you're creating something, you try not to think about your audience because you want, well, not always, but you often want to not narrow yourself down to a particular way of thinking. But then you become almost paralyzed by this, become like kind of indistinct, or without you even realizing it, you start to move towards an audience that you're kind of being pushed towards without you even realizing it. So, for instance, in my case, it's that the way I'm writing, I'm afraid of being ghettoized as a writer and turned into a particular type of writer because of the things I write about. And so I often want to expand my writing to reach a wider range of people. But as my difficulties with publishing my first novel have shown, it's clear that this is not quite I haven't achieved this successfully. And, I have a friend who really doesn't like when people kind of pull back from trying to reach as many people as possible. And I think I'm afraid to kind of pull back and say, no, I'm not trying to reach everyone as much as possible. Because what that does, it feels like I'm not being ambitious enough. But at the same time, I think I have to be aware and respect that my writing is not going to appeal to everyone, that the current state of the world is not one where everyone is going to appreciate what I write, that I'm not central to the conversation, and that the things that I want to say will not be accepted by everyone. So I should be thinking about who my audience is as it currently stands, if that is only maybe 5 people or 10 people or 15 people. But I need to be able to focus more on that and really give those 5, 10, 15 people the exciting things that I want to give them and not be obsessed with this. I have to try to make it as expansive or as interesting as possible, expansive and as populist as possible. Because what I find is not that I want to be deliberately confusing or anything, but what I find is that I actively try to avoid some of the things that would make my writing more popular or more whatever with people. And it's because I don't actually feel, because I don't really like that writing. I find that writing kind of boring. And so I don't know why I spend time trying to get there when it's not what I want. And I think this is partially due to the fact that, you know, I mean, I think, I don't think I'm I'm not saying that I'm an amazing writer or anything, but I often feel very comfortable imitating other types of writing, and I feel like I can imitate other types of writing, and when I read something, I often, you know, unconsciously imitate it. I remember Zadie Smith wrote something about this, about how she has to stop reading books when she's writing because she's always just unconsciously imitating the last thing that she read. And I think it's a natural kind of writerly thing. You want to always, you just have a natural urge to kind of imitate all the time. And I think that imitation skill is good, but that it also kind of renders you without a voice. And if you are trying to be as big as possible, you may try to always change your voice constantly to try to find this place that will eventually hit on something that everyone will like. And I have to try to focus on who my audience is, or even just develop my voice, and then see what audience that voice is leading to, and then you know, worry about whatever after that. And I think, to wrap all of this up, this is lengthy and long, but to wrap all of that up, I think one of the kind of key things that I've been thinking in my head is, what will my published work look like? Where will it be published? What will it look like? Who will buy it? And I've started to develop some ideas about that, but I think that's really what I need to focus on for the new year in terms of my writing. I mean, it seems pretty obvious stuff. I think other people probably figured this out like years ago. But, you know, you spend, I think, as a writer, it takes a while for you to get past a lot of the fears that you have, and this is one of the reasons why writing takes so long, is that you have to kind of slowly unmake or undo all of the fears. And I feel like this might be something that I'm kind of reaching past, and that this will be a fear that I'll overcome. I mean, I actually have to do writing based upon this, but that's what I hope. So, I mean, that's all I have to say. It's been a long video. I hope you actually enjoyed it or watched it, because, I mean, it's pretty long. And I'm going to try to I'll at least keep this up during the holidays and hopefully into the new year. Yes, hopefully you'll be able to see me more often. And otherwise, I hope you have a good week. I will see you. Bye-bye.